Hey, kid, why are you out here? The words cut through the icy Chicago rain, where billionaire Elliot Carver, 35, spots a shivering 5-year-old boy, Noah, huddled under a convenience store's neon-lit awning. Soaked, trembling, and alone, Noah sobs. He's lost, his mother nowhere in sight. With his father gone and only his mother left, the boy's plight stirs something in Elliot's guarded heart. He brings Noah to his sterile penthouse, offering dry clothes and warmth, determined to reunite him with his mother. But what secrets lie behind this chance encounter? Will Elliot uncover a hidden connection to his past? Stick around to find out. This tale of kindness and mystery will grip your soul. Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment. Where and when are you watching? Your guesses for this story's twist. Let's dive in. The rain sliced through Chicago's night air, a relentless mix of icy droplets and faint snowflakes that turned the streets into shimmering mirrors of neon and streetlight. Elliot Carver's Tesla hummed softly, its wipers battling the downpour as he navigated the near-empty streets of the commercial district. The city's pulse felt muted, the usual bustle smothered by the storm's fury. His eyes, weary from a day of boardroom sparring, caught a flicker of movement beneath the flickering neon sign of a convenience store. A small figure, barely visible, crouched under the narrow awning, a dark silhouette against the garish glow of a soda ad. Elliot's foot eased off the accelerator, his instincts warring, keep driving, stay safe, or investigate. Something about that huddled shape, so small against the storm, tugged at a memory he couldn't place. He pulled over, tires splashing through a puddle, and grabbed his black umbrella from the passenger seat. The cold bit through his tailored coat as he stepped out, the wind snatching at his umbrella. Approaching the awning, he saw the boy clearly, a child no more than 5, soaked to the bone in a thin jacket, his dark curls plastered to his forehead. The boy's knees were drawn tight to his chest and soft sobs shook his frame. Elliot crouched, keeping the umbrella's shelter over the child. "Hey, kid, why are you out here?" he asked, his voice gentle but firm, cutting through the rain's steady hiss. The boy looked up, brown eyes wide with fear, shimmering with tears and rain. I can't find my mommy," he stammered, his voice trembling as much as his small body. "She's at the hospital, but I got lost." Elliot's chest tightened. Lost, alone, in this weather? "What's your name?" he asked, softening his tone further. "Noah," the boy whispered, wiping his nose with a soggy sleeve. "I'm 5. My daddy's gone, and mommy's all I got." The raw honesty in those words hit Elliot like a gust of the storm itself, stirring a distant echo of his childhood, of a day he'd buried deep. "Okay, Noah," Elliot said, glancing at the deserted street. "You can't stay out here. It's freezing." He hesitated, the city's warnings about strangers flashing in his mind, but the boy's shivering form silenced his doubts. "Let's get you some food, yeah? Then we'll figure this out." Noah nodded, cautious but desperate, his small hand clutching the edge of his jacket. Inside the convenience store, the clerk barely looked up from his phone as Elliot grabbed a turkey sandwich, a bottle of orange juice, and a pack of tissues. Noah stood close, eyeing the food with a hunger that made Elliot's stomach twist. "When'd you last eat?" he asked, handing over the sandwich. Noah shrugged, tearing into the wrapper. "This morning, maybe." Back under the awning, Noah devoured the sandwich, crumbs clinging to his damp cheeks. Elliot watched, his mind racing. A hospital, a missing mother, a kid alone in the rain. This wasn't his world. His life was boardrooms, algorithms, and a penthouse so sterile it could pass for a showroom. Yet here he was, kneeling in a storm for a boy he didn't know. "Noah, do you know which hospital your mom's at?" he asked. Noah shook his head, his mouth full. "She's a nurse. She works nights. I was supposed to stay in the kids' room, but it got all crazy, and I followed some people outside." His eyes welled up again. "I thought she was there." Elliot's jaw tightened. A kid wandering out of a chaotic hospital made sense. Too much sense. He pulled out his phone, shielding it from the rain, and dialed the nearest medical center. The line was busy, the storm likely overwhelming the city's systems. "All right," he said, more to himself than Noah. "We're not getting anywhere like this." He looked at the boy whose teeth chattered despite the sandwich. Noah, I've got a place nearby. It's warm, dry. We can call the hospital from there. Find your mom. Sound okay? Noah's eyes searched Elliot's face, wary but exhausted. You won't take me away? He asked, voice small. Elliot shook his head. I promise. Just until we find your mom. The drive to his penthouse was silent, save for the rain's patter and Noah's occasional sniffle from the back seat, wrapped in a blanket Elliot kept for emergencies. The city blurred past, its lights smearing into streaks of color. Elliot glanced at Noah in the rearview mirror, the boy's small frame dwarfed by the blanket, clutching the empty juice bottle. Something about him, those wide, trusting eyes, stirred a memory of Ethan, his younger brother, lost to a family rift years ago. He pushed the thought down, focusing on the road. The elevator to his penthouse opened directly into a sleek, cavernous space. Polished hardwood, minimalist furniture, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the stormy cityscape. Noah's eyes widened, taking in the sterile opulence. You live here? He asked, voice tinged with awe. Elliot managed a half-smile. Yeah, just me. He led Noah to the living room, turning on the gas fireplace. The sudden warmth made Noah's shoulders relax. Let's get you dry, Elliot said, digging through a closet for an oversized sweater. It hung comically on Noah, sleeves dangling past his hands, but the boy clutched it gratefully. Elliot boiled water for hot chocolate, the kitchen's stainless steel gleaming under soft lights. Noah sat on a bar stool, swinging his legs, watching. My mom makes this sometimes, he said softly. She reads me books too, like one about a spider and a pig. Elliot nodded, recognizing Charlotte's Web. Good book, he said, handing Noah a steaming mug. The boy sipped, a faint smile breaking through his fear. Elliot tried the hospital again. No answer. His gut told him to avoid the police for now. Noah was scared enough. You can sleep here tonight, he said. We'll try again in the morning. Noah's fingers tightened around the mug. You think Mommy's looking for me? He asked, voice barely above a whisper. Elliot knelt to his level, meeting those searching eyes. I know she is, Noah. We'll find her. As he spoke, Noah's hand brushed against his pocket, and a small beaded bracelet fell to the floor. Colorful plastic, clearly handmade. Elliot picked it up, a strange familiarity tugging at him. Your mom made this? He asked. Noah nodded. For me? Elliot's heart skipped, an unplaceable memory flickering. Where had he seen something like this before? The gas fireplace cast a golden flicker across the living room, its warmth a stark contrast to the storm still raging beyond the towering windows. Elliot sat on the edge of the sleek leather sofa, watching Noah curl up under a thick throw blanket, the oversized sweater swallowing his small frame. The boy's eyelids drooped, the hot chocolate mug now empty on the coffee table, but his fingers still clutched the beaded bracelet Elliot had returned to him. That bracelet, its crude, colorful beads, gnawed at Elliot's mind, a ghost of a memory he couldn't pin down. He shook it off, focusing on the task at hand. Noah needed rest, and Elliot needed answers, but the hospital's phone lines remained stubbornly silent, each unanswered call tightening the knot in his chest. You comfy? Elliot asked, his voice low to avoid startling the boy. Noah nodded, his brown eyes reflecting the fire's glow. It's warm, he murmured, a faint smile tugging at his lips, like when Mommy lights candles at home. The mention of home sparked a question Elliot had been holding back. What's it like, your home? He asked, leaning forward slightly, genuinely curious. Noah's face softened, his voice gaining a quiet strength despite his exhaustion. It's little. One room for me and Mommy. She's got books everywhere. Big ones, small ones. She reads to me before bed. Says stories keep the dark away. Elliot's lips curved into a faint smile, picturing a cramped but cozy space filled with love. Sounds nice, he said, glancing around his cavernous apartment, its polished surfaces suddenly feeling colder. What else? Noah's legs swung under the blanket, his voice growing animated. There's a park nearby with a tree that looks like an elephant. Mommy takes me there to play catch. We don't have much, but she says we got each other. The boy's words landed like a soft punch, stirring something in Elliot, a longing he hadn't acknowledged in years. Noah's life, so different from his own, held a warmth his wealth couldn't buy. "Tell me about your mom," Elliot prompted, hoping for clues to narrow the search. Noah's eyes lit up, though fear lingered in their depths. "Her name's Maya. She's a nurse who works nights at the hospital. She's always tired, but she sings to me anyway. Says I'm her sunshine." His voice cracked on the last word and he looked down, twisting the bracelet. "I didn't mean to get lost. It was loud and people were running, and I thought she went outside." Elliot's heart ached at the guilt in Noah's voice. He slid closer, resting a hand lightly on the boy's shoulder. "Hey, it's not your fault, Noah. Hospitals get crazy. She's out there looking for you, I promise." Noah's eyes met his, searching for reassurance. "You think so?" he whispered. Elliot nodded firmly. "I know so. We'll find her tomorrow, okay?" The boy gave a small nod, but his fingers tightened around the bracelet, as if it were a lifeline to his mother. Elliot's gaze drifted to the beads, red, blue, yellow, strung unevenly but with care. Why did they feel so familiar? He pushed the thought aside, standing to dim the lights. "You should sleep," he said, pulling another blanket over Noah. "I'll be right down the hall if you need me." Noah hesitated, then spoke softly. "Can you stay till I fall asleep?" The vulnerability in his voice caught Elliot off guard, stirring memories of Ethan begging for the same when they were kids, scared of thunderstorms. "Sure," Elliot said, settling back on the sofa's edge. He began to hum a half-forgotten lullaby, one his mother used to sing, the notes rusty but soothing. Noah's breathing slowed, his grip on the bracelet loosening as sleep claimed him. Elliot watched the boy's peaceful face, a strange tenderness swelling in his chest. This child, a stranger hours ago, was unraveling something inside him. As Noah slept, Elliot picked up his phone, trying the hospital again. Still no answer. He typed a quick message to his assistant, Claire, asking her to check local hospitals for a nurse named Maya. His thumb hovered over the send button. Then he added, "Also, look into missing child reports." He sent it, setting the phone down with a sigh. The bracelet lay on the coffee table where Noah had left it, its beads glinting in the firelight. Elliot picked it up, turning it over in his hands. The memory flickered again. Ethan, maybe 10, stringing beads at their kitchen table, laughing as he made a mess. Could it be the same style? No, that was impossible. Ethan was gone, lost to a family fight years ago. Elliot stood, pacing to the window. The city sprawled below, its lights blurred by rain, a glittering maze hiding Noah's mother. He thought of Maya, frantic, searching for her son. The thought made his throat tighten. He'd been alone so long, his life a carefully curated fortress of work and solitude. Yet here was Noah, cracking that fortress with every word, every trusting glance. Elliot glanced back at the sleeping boy, the bracelet still in his hand. Tomorrow they'd search again, hospitals, parks, anywhere Noah's memory could lead. But deep down, a question lingered. Why did this feel like more than chance? As the storm howled outside, Elliot couldn't shake the sense that Noah's arrival was about to upend his world in ways he couldn't yet fathom. Morning light filtered through the storm's thinning veil, casting a pale glow across the living room where Noah stirred beneath the throw blanket. Elliot, already awake, stood by the coffee machine, its soft hum a counterpoint to the city's distant pulse beyond the windows. Sleep had eluded him, his mind tangled in the bracelet's nagging familiarity and Noah's quiet trust. The boy's presence had turned his sterile sanctuary into something unfamiliar, alive, messy, human. Elliot glanced at his phone. A message from Claire confirmed no luck with hospital records yet, but she'd keep digging. He poured a second cup of coffee, his resolve hardening. Today they'd find Maya, no matter how many doors they had to knock on. Noah sat up, rubbing his eyes, the oversized sweater slipping off one shoulder. "Morning," Elliot said, sliding a plate of toast and scrambled eggs onto the counter. "Fuel up. We're going hunting for your mom today." Noah's face brightened, though a shadow of doubt lingered in his eyes. "You think we'll find her?" he asked, climbing onto a bar stool. Elliot leaned against the counter, meeting the boy's gaze. "We're going to try every place you remember, Noah." starting with that convenience store. Deal? Noah nodded, a determined spark igniting. Deal. The city greeted them with a damp chill as they stepped out of the Tesla near the convenience store, its neon sign now dull in daylight. The rain had eased to a drizzle, but puddles mirrored the gray sky. Noah, bundled in one of Elliot's scarves and a spare jacket, held Elliot's hand tightly, his small fingers cold but firm. They retraced last night's scene, Elliot scanning the street for clues. A hospital shuttle, a worried mother, anything. Inside the store, the same clerk from last night shrugged at their questions. Lots of kids pass through, he said, barely glancing up. Don't know any, Maya. Elliot's jaw clenched, but he thanked the man, guiding Noah back outside. Let's try something else, Elliot said, crouching to Noah's level. You said there's a park with an elephant tree near your house? Any other places you and your mom go? Noah's brow furrowed, his breath misting in the cold. Sometimes we get groceries at a store with a big red sign, and Mommy takes me to the library. It's got a fish tank. Elliot's pulse quickened. Specifics, finally. He pulled out his phone, searching for libraries with aquariums near hospitals. Good job, Noah, he said, ruffling the boy's curls. Let's check the park first. The park was a 10-minute drive, tucked between aging apartment blocks and a shuttered community center. Noah's eyes lit up as they approached a gnarled oak, its trunk twisted into a shape vaguely resembling an elephant. That's it, he exclaimed, tugging Elliot's hand. But the playground was empty, its swings creaking in the breeze. No sign of Maya or anyone who might know her. Noah's shoulders slumped, his earlier hope fading. She's not here, he whispered, kicking at a wet leaf. Elliot knelt beside him, ignoring the damp seeping through his trousers. Hey, this is just one stop. We've got more places to check. You're doing great. Noah looked up, eyes glistening. What if she stopped looking? His voice was so small, it nearly broke Elliot's heart. He gripped the boy's shoulders gently. Noah, your mom's out there, turning this city upside down for you. I'd bet my whole company on it. A faint smile flickered across Noah's face, and he nodded, clutching his bracelet like a talisman. Elliot stood, his mind racing. The library was next, but first he snapped photos of the park, texting them to Claire with a note. Cross-reference with low-income housing near hospitals. If Maya worked the nights, she likely lived close to her job. As they walked back to the car, Noah's chatter filled the silence, a welcome distraction from Elliot's growing frustration. Mommy reads me this book about a spider who saves a pig, he said, swinging their joined hands. She does voices for all the animals. Elliot chuckled, picturing Maya's animated storytelling. Sounds like she's pretty special, he said, opening the car door. Noah climbed in, his scarf trailing. She is. She says I'm her hero, even when I'm scared. The words lingered, stirring something in Elliot, a memory of Ethan calling him Big Brother, the brave one, before their family fractured. Back in the car, Elliot's phone buzzed. A dead end from Claire on the library lead. The nearest one with a fish tank was too far from any hospital. He sighed, glancing at Noah, who was tracing the bracelet's beads with his finger. That bracelet again. Elliot's mind flashed to Ethan's childhood crafts, the clumsy necklaces he'd made for their mother. The similarity was uncanny, but Ethan had vanished years ago, swallowed by a world Elliot hadn't dared to chase. Noah, he said carefully, that bracelet, does your mom make a lot of those? Noah shook his head. Just this one. She said it's special, like me. Elliot's throat tightened. He started the engine, his thoughts a tangle of logic and instinct. The bracelet couldn't be connected to Ethan. It was a coincidence, nothing more. Yet doubt gnawed at him, a whisper that this boy's arrival wasn't random. Let's head to that grocery store with the red sign, he said, forcing a smile. Maybe someone there knows your mom. Noah nodded, but his eyes stayed on the bracelet as if it held answers neither of them could see. As they drove, the city's gray expanse stretched before them, hiding Maya somewhere in its depths. Elliot's grip on the wheel tightened. He'd find her, not just for Noah, but for the part of himself that was starting to wake up, stirred by a boy who'd wandered into his life under a stormy sky. The Tesla's tires hummed over damp asphalt as Elliot steered through Chicago's labyrinthine streets. the drizzle now a faint mist cloaking the city in a ghostly sheen. Noah sat quietly in the back seat, his scarf bunched around his neck, fingers tracing the beads of his bracelet with a rhythm that seemed to anchor him. Elliot's mind churned, the boy's words about the special bracelet looping alongside memories of Ethan's childhood crafts. The grocery store with the red sign was their next lead, but the weight of that bracelet, its improbable familiarity, pressed heavier with each passing mile. He glanced at Noah in the rearview mirror, the boy's hopeful eyes fueling his determination. Maya was out there, and every unanswered question about her felt like a thread pulling Elliot closer to a truth he wasn't ready to face. The store appeared around a corner, its faded red sign proclaiming Lucky's Market in peeling letters. The parking lot was half empty, littered with soggy flyers and stray carts. Elliot helped Noah out, the boy's oversized jacket flapping in the breeze. "Recognize this place?" he asked, scanning the storefront for anything. A face, a clue that might point to Maya. Noah nodded eagerly. "Yeah, Mommy buys our cereal here. She lets me pick the kind with marshmallows." His voice lifted, a spark of home cutting through his fear. Elliot smiled, but his chest tightened. If Maya shopped here, someone might know her. Inside, fluorescent lights buzzed over aisles of canned goods and discount bins. Noah clung to Elliot's hand, his eyes darting as if expecting Maya to appear. At the checkout, a middle-aged cashier with a name tag reading Rita eyed them curiously. "Excuse me," Elliot said, leaning in. "We're looking for a woman named Maya, a nurse who might come here with her son Noah." He gestured to the boy who offered a shy wave. Rita's face softened. "Oh, I know Maya. Sweet lady, always rushing in after her shift. Haven't seen her in a couple of days, though." Elliot's pulse quickened. "Any idea where she lives?" Noah got separated from her. Rita frowned, glancing at Noah with concern. "Poor thing. She's in Hope's Crossing, I think, as South Side near the old textile mill. Never said much, but she mentioned a park with a funny tree." Noah perked up. "The elephant tree," he exclaimed, gripping Elliot's hand tighter. Rita nodded. "That's the one. Sorry, I don't know more. She's private, keeps to herself." Elliot thanked her, slipping a 20 into the tip jar. Hope's Crossing, a lead finally. He texted Claire. "Check Hope's Crossing, near Textile Mill, for Maya, nurse, single mom." Back in the car, Noah's excitement was palpable. "We're gonna find her, right?" he asked, bouncing slightly. Elliot forced a confident nod, though doubt gnawed at him. Hope's Crossing was a sprawling, underserved neighborhood, a maze of narrow streets and modest homes. Finding one woman there wouldn't be simple. "We're getting closer," he said, starting the engine. Noah's smile faltered, his fingers returning to the bracelet. "She's probably mad I got lost," he murmured. Elliot shook his head. "Noah, she's just going to be happy you're safe. Trust me." As they drove, Noah pulled a crumpled paper from his pocket, a drawing, its edges softened by rain. "I made this for you," he said, holding it out. Elliot took it, glancing at the crude sketch of a woman with long hair holding a boy's hand, a sun overhead. "That's me and Mommy," Noah explained, voice soft. "You helped me, so I wanted you to have it." Elliot's throat tightened, the drawing's simplicity piercing him. "It's perfect," he said, tucking it carefully into his coat. The image lingered, a mother and son, bound by love, and stirred a memory he'd buried deep. At a red light, Elliot reached for his phone, opening a photo he rarely looked at. Him, Ethan, and a woman named Clara, their family's housekeeper when they were kids. Clara had been kind, her beaded crafts a staple of their childhood, bracelets, keychains, gifts for their mother. Ethan had loved mimicking her, stringing beads with clumsy pride. The similarity to Noah's bracelet was uncanny. Could Clara be connected to Maya? The thought felt absurd, yet it clung to him like the mist outside. Clara had left their employ after Ethan's disappearance. Her own life a mystery Elliot had never explored. "Was your mom's mom good at making stuff, like your bracelet?" Elliot asked, keeping his tone casual. Noah tilted his head. "Grandma? Mommy says she made pretty things, but she's gone now. She taught Mommy to make my bracelet." Elliot's grip on the wheel tightened. Clara gone. His mind raced, piecing together fragments. If Clara were Maya's mother, it would explain the bracelet, the photo, the eerie sense of fate tying him to Noah. He needed answers, but Hope's Crossing was the priority. The city's skyline faded as they neared the south side, buildings giving way to weathered homes and cracked sidewalks. Noah pressed his face to the window, searching for familiar signs. "That's the mill," he pointed, spotting a looming brick structure. Elliot's phone buzzed. Claire's reply: "Hope's Crossing, low-income housing, no Maya in hospital records yet." He cursed silently. They were close, but the city was vast, and Maya was a needle in its haystack. As they turned toward Hope's Crossing, Elliot glanced at Noah's drawing on the passenger seat, its son a beacon of hope. Whatever tied him to this boy, chance or something deeper, he wouldn't stop until Noah was back in his mother's arms. The Tesla's hum faded as Elliot navigated the narrow, rutted streets of Hope's Crossing, where the city's polish gave way to cracked sidewalks and weathered homes huddled under a gray sky. Noah sat forward, his nose almost pressed to the window, the beaded bracelet glinting on his wrist as he scanned for signs of home. The old textile mill loomed behind them, its brick facade a silent witness to their search. Elliot's heart thudded, the weight of Noah's drawing, its simple son and stick figure family, burning in his coat pocket alongside the old photo of Clara. The possibility that Clara, his childhood housekeeper, was Maya's mother felt like a thread pulling him toward a truth he both craved and feared. But first, Noah needed his mother, and every passing street felt like a step closer to her. "Look!" Noah's voice broke the silence, pointing to a faded wooden fence with a crudely carved elephant shape. "That's near our house." His excitement was infectious, but tempered by a quiver of doubt. Elliot slowed the car, parking beside a small market where a few locals eyed the sleek vehicle with curiosity. "Good eye, Noah," he said, stepping out into the damp air. The boy scrambled after him, clutching Elliot's hand, the oversized scarf trailing like a cape. They walked past modest homes, some with laundry flapping on lines despite the mist, others with children's bikes propped against peeling walls. Noah's steps quickened, his eyes darting. "It's this way," he said, tugging Elliot toward a narrow alley. The alley opened to a cluster of small houses, their yards dotted with makeshift planters and faded toys. Noah stopped abruptly, his breath hitching. "There," he whispered, pointing to a tiny home with sagging shutters and a front gate adorned with a painted elephant. The resemblance to Noah's drawing was uncanny. The sun might be missing, but the love in its details was palpable. Elliot's pulse raced. "Is that it?" he asked, crouching to Noah's level. The boy nodded, eyes wide with hope and fear. "But what if Mommy's not home?" His voice trembled and Elliot squeezed his hand. "Then we'll find her, Noah. Let's check." They approached the gate, but before Elliot could knock, a woman's voice echoed from down the street. "Noah!" The cry was raw, desperate, cutting through the quiet. Elliot turned to see a young woman running toward them, her dark hair escaping a messy bun, her nurse's scrubs stained and crumpled. Noah's face lit up, his hands slipping from Elliot's as he sprinted forward. "Mommy!" he shouted, his voice breaking with joy. Maya dropped to her knees on the dirt path, arms wide, and Noah crashed into her, their embrace a tangle of sobs and laughter. Elliot stood frozen, his throat tight, watching the reunion unfold like a scene from a dream he'd never dared to have. Maya's hands roamed Noah's face, hair and shoulders, as if confirming he was real. "My baby," she choked out, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I looked everywhere. I thought—" Her voice faltered, and she hugged him tighter, rocking gently. Noah clung to her, his words muffled. "I got lost, Mommy. I'm sorry." Maya shook her head, kissing his forehead. "You're here now. That's all that matters." She looked up, her eyes brown like Noah's, locking onto Elliot. Gratitude and exhaustion warred in her gaze, and she stood, still holding Noah's hand. "You brought him back," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't even know your name." "Elliot Carver," he replied, his voice rougher than expected. "I found him last night under a store awning. He's a brave kid." Maya's lips trembled, a faint smile breaking through. "He is. Thank you. God, thank you." She glanced at Noah, then back at Elliot. I was at the hospital, then the police, the streets. I lost my job looking for him. The admission carried a weight of sacrifice, and Elliot's chest ached. He pulled the drawing from his pocket, holding it out. Noah made this. It helped us find you. Maya took the paper, her eyes softening as she traced the sketch. You kept him safe, she whispered, meeting Elliot's gaze again. A beat of silence passed, and then her brow furrowed, studying his face. Have we met before? She asked, hesitant. Elliot's heart skipped, the photo of Clara burning in his pocket. He pulled it out, his hands unsteady. Maybe not, but was your mother Clara? She worked for my family when I was a kid. Maya's eyes widened, her hand flying to her mouth. Mama? Yes, she passed a few years ago. How do you know her? Elliot swallowed, the connection clicking into place. She was our housekeeper. She made bracelets like Noah's. She was kind to me and my brother Ethan. Maya's expression shifted, recognition dawning. Mama talked about the Carver boys. You're Elliot? Her voice held a mix of wonder and disbelief. Noah tugged at her hand. He's nice, Mommy. He gave me hot chocolate. Maya laughed, a shaky sound, and hugged Noah again. Sounds like Mama's kind of person, she said, her eyes meeting Elliot's with a warmth that felt like home. The streets seemed to fade, the world narrowing to this moment of connection. Elliot's mind reeled. Clara, Maya, Noah, all tied to his past, to Ethan's ghost. Can we talk more? He asked, gesturing to the house. I'd like to understand everything. Maya nodded, wiping her tears. Come in. It's not much, but it's ours. As they walked toward the gate, Noah between them, Elliot felt the weight of the bracelet's mystery shift, not lighter, but shared. Maya's door opened, and with it, a door to a past he thought he'd lost forever. The door creaked shut behind them, sealing out the damp chill of Hope's Crossing and enveloping Elliot in the modest warmth of Maya's home. The single room was a tapestry of love woven from necessity, books stacked on a wobbly shelf, a patch quilt draped over a sagging couch, a tiny table holding a vase of wilted wildflowers. Noah darted to a corner piled with worn toys, his joy at being home radiating like sunlight. Maya gestured to the couch, her nurse's scrubs still crumpled from her frantic search. Sit, please, she said, her voice steadier now but laced with gratitude. Elliot settled awkwardly, the photo of Clara and Noah's drawing still clutched in his hand, their weight anchoring him as his mind grappled with the improbable bridge between his past and this small, vibrant family. Maya busied herself at a stovetop, barely wider than a book, brewing coffee in a chipped pot. It's all I've got right now, she said, glancing over with a shy smile. Noah's been through enough without me fussing over guests. Elliot shook his head, the aroma of cheap coffee grounding him. It's perfect, he said, meaning it. Noah plopped beside him, clutching a tattered stuffed elephant. This is Mr. Trunks, he announced, holding it up. Mommy made him for me. Maya laughed softly from the stove. Mama taught me to sew. She said it's how you stitch a life together, even when it's falling apart. The mention of Clara sent a jolt through Elliot. He set the photo on the table, its edges curling slightly. Your mother. She was special to us, he said, his voice low. She worked for my family when I was a kid, looked after me and my brother Ethan, made us feel safe. Maya turned, her eyes softening as she brought 2 mugs over, sitting across from him. Mama never talked much about her old jobs, but she loved kids, said they reminded her of life's worth fighting for. She glanced at Noah, who was now sprawled on the floor, chattering to Mr. Trunks. What was she like with you? Elliot leaned back, memories flooding in. Clara's warm laugh, her beaded craft scattered across their kitchen table, her patience with Ethan's endless questions. She was kind, he said, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Ethan was troubled, always getting into fights. Clara never judged him. She'd make these bracelets like Noah's and give them to us. Said they'd keep us strong. Maya's hand drifted to Noah's bracelet on the table, her fingers tracing the beads. She made this for me when I was pregnant with Noah, she said softly. Said it'd pass her love to him. The confirmation hit Elliot like a quiet thunderclap, Clara's hands had shaped both their lives, a thread spanning decades. "What happened to her?" he asked, dreading the answer. Maya's gaze dropped. "Cancer 3 years ago. She fought hard, but—" Her voice trailed off, and she took a shaky sip of coffee. "She raised me alone after my dad left. Worked every job she could, like your family's. Never complained." Elliot nodded, guilt prickling his chest. He'd never known Clara's struggles, too wrapped in his privileged world. And Ethan, where had he been when Clara needed help? "Tell me about Ethan," Maya said, as if reading his thoughts. Elliot hesitated, the name a wound he rarely touched. "He was my younger brother," he started, his voice rough. "Smart, stubborn, always dreaming big. We fought a lot after our parents split. He left home at 17 after a bad argument with our dad. I was in college, too busy to chase him. Haven't seen him since." The admission hung heavy, and Maya's eyes held a quiet understanding. "Mama mentioned an Ethan once," she said carefully. "A boy she worried about, said he had a good heart but carried too much anger. I always wondered what happened to him." Elliot's breath caught. Clara had remembered Ethan even after they drifted apart. He glanced at Noah, now stacking blocks with Mr. Trunks, and saw echoes of Ethan's restless energy. "I should have looked for him," he said, more to himself than Maya. "I let him go, like he didn't matter." Maya reached across the table, her hand hovering near his. "You were young. Families break up sometimes. Doesn't mean you can't fix what's left." Her words, simple yet piercing, stirred something in Elliot, a resolve he hadn't felt in years. Noah climbed onto the couch, yawning. "Can Mr. Elliot stay for dinner?" he asked, leaning against Maya. She chuckled, ruffling his curls. "It's just noodles tonight, baby. Not fancy." Elliot smiled, the idea of staying oddly comforting. "Noodles sound great," he said, then hesitated. "Maya, I want to help. Maybe with Noah's school, or finding you a new job. You shouldn't have lost yours because of this." Maya's expression tightened, pride flashing in her eyes. "We've managed," she said firmly. "But I won't say no to advice, for Noah's sake." The conversation shifted to lighter things. Noah's favorite books, Maya's night shifts. But Elliot's mind lingered on Ethan. Clara's memory tied him to this family, but Ethan's absence was a shadow he couldn't ignore. As Noah dozed against Maya, Elliot stood, his gaze falling on the bracelet. "I'll come back tomorrow," he promised, slipping the photo into his pocket. "Maybe we can figure out more about all this." Maya nodded, her smile warm but weary. "You're welcome here, Elliot. Mama would have liked you now." As he stepped into the misty evening, Hope's Crossing's quiet streets felt less foreign. The Tesla waited, a symbol of a life he was starting to question. Ethan's face, Clara's kindness, Noah's trust. They swirled in his mind, urging him toward something new. He glanced back at the little house, its light glowing through the shutters, and knew he'd return not just for answers, but for the family that had begun to feel like his own. The morning sun broke through Hope's Crossing in tentative rays, glinting off the wet rooftops as Elliot's Tesla rolled to a stop outside Maya's small home. The memory of last night's coffee and conversation lingered, a warmth that contrasted with the cool air seeping through his car window. Noah's stuffed elephant, Maya's quiet strength, and Clara's ghostly presence in their stories had shifted something in Elliot, like a gear clicking into place. He stepped out, a folder of papers tucked under his arm, his mind buzzing with a plan that felt both reckless and right. Helping Maya and Noah wasn't just about fixing a moment. It was about honoring Clara's kindness and maybe redeeming his failure to find Ethan. Today, he'd start building something lasting. Noah burst through the gate, his grin wide as he waved a crayon drawing of a rocket. "Mr. Elliot, look what I made!" he shouted, nearly tripping over his untied laces. Elliot knelt, catching the boy's enthusiasm like a contagion. "That's one fast rocket, Noah," he said, studying the colorful sketch. "Gonna fly to the moon?" Noah nodded, eyes sparkling. "And Mars! Mommy says I can be an astronaut." Maya appeared at the door, wiping her hands on a dish towel, her smile weary but genuine. "He's been up since dawn drawing for you," she said, stepping onto the porch. "You didn't have to come back so soon." "I wanted to," Elliot replied, standing, the folder heavy in his hand. Got something to discuss if you've got a minute. Maya raised an eyebrow, curiosity mingling with caution, and ushered him inside. The room felt more familiar now, its patched quilt and stacked books a quiet testament to Maya's resilience. Noah plopped onto the couch, coloring furiously, while Maya poured coffee from the same chipped pot. "What's this about?" she asked, sitting across from him, her nurse's scrubs swapped for a faded sweater. Elliot opened the folder, revealing plans for the community center they'd passed yesterday. A rundown building with potential he couldn't ignore. "I've been thinking," he began, sliding the papers toward her. "That center down the street, it could be a safe place for kids like Noah, for families like yours. I want to fund its renovation, make it a hub for after-school programs, job training, maybe a daycare for night shift workers." Maya's eyes widened, scanning the sketches of a revitalized space with bright walls and new equipment. "Elliot, that's huge," she said, her voice catching. "Why here? Why us?" He hesitated, glancing at Noah, whose crayon scratched rhythmically. "Because of Clara. She gave me and Ethan more than we deserved. This feels like paying it forward." Maya's fingers traced the plans, her expression torn between hope and pride. "We've gotten by without charity," she said softly, but there was no edge to her words. "But for Noah, for the other kids here, I'd be foolish to say no." Elliot nodded, respecting her strength. "It's not charity, Maya. It's an investment. You could run it if you want. You know what this place needs." Her eyes met his, a spark of possibility igniting. "Me? Manage it?" she asked, half laughing. "I'm just a nurse who can barely keep this house together." Elliot leaned forward. "You're more than that. Noah's proof of it." Noah looked up, sensing the shift in tone. "Can I help at the center?" he asked, waving his rocket drawing. "I could teach kids to draw." Elliot chuckled, ruffling his curls. "You're hired, kid." Maya smiled, a tear glinting in her eye, and nodded. "Okay, Elliot, let's do this." The agreement felt like a pact, sealing their unlikely trio in a shared purpose. As they talked details, budgets, timelines, community input, Elliot's mind drifted to Ethan. Would he have loved this? A place to help kids like he'd been, restless and searching? Later, as Noah showed Elliot his tiny collection of space books, a question slipped out. "You ever hear your mom mention an Ethan, Noah? Maybe from your grandma?" The boy shook his head, flipping a page. "Nope, just stories about stars." Maya, clearing the coffee mugs, paused. "Mama did talk about an Ethan once," she said quietly. "Said he was a dreamer, always sketching plans for a better world. She hoped he found peace." Elliot's chest tightened, Ethan's face flashing in his mind. Those sketches, those dreams lost to time. "I hope so too," he murmured, the weight of his brother's absence heavier than ever. As they stepped outside to survey the community center, its faded walls and broken windows a stark contrast to Noah's vibrant energy, Elliot felt a resolve solidify. He'd fund the center, yes, but he'd also keep searching for Ethan, even if it led nowhere. "This place'll be great," Noah said, kicking a pebble, his rocket drawing tucked under his arm. Elliot nodded, picturing it. Kids laughing, Maya leading, a beacon in Hope's Crossing. "It will," he said, glancing at Maya, "because of people like you two." Driving back to his penthouse, the city's skyline looming once more, Elliot clutched Noah's drawing, now joined by the rocket sketch. The silence of his car felt different, not oppressive, but expectant, like a canvas waiting for color. He'd failed Ethan once, but Noah and Maya were giving him a chance to build something new. The center would be a start, a way to honor Clara's legacy and Ethan's dreams. As the sun dipped low, casting golden streaks across the city, Elliot knew he was no longer just a man in a suit. He was part of something bigger, something that felt like home. Sunlight spilled over Hope's Crossing, painting the once dreary community center in vibrant hues as children's laughter echoed from its newly painted walls. Elliot stood at the entrance, a clipboard in hand, watching Noah dart through a crowd of kids chasing a soccer ball across a fresh turf patch. A year had passed since that stormy night, and the center, now alive with art classes, tutoring, and a daycare for night shift workers, stood as a testament to the promise he'd made to Maya and Noah. His penthouse, once a silent fortress, now held traces of their presence. Noah's rocket drawing framed on the wall, a quilt from Maya draped over a chair. Yet as he surveyed the bustling scene, Elliot's thoughts lingered on Ethan, the brother whose absence still ached, though softened by the family he'd found. Maya emerged from the center, her clipboard mirroring his, her face glowing with purpose. "You see Noah out there," she said, nodding toward the boy, now kicking the ball with fierce determination. "He's already planning a space-themed mural for the art room." Elliot chuckled, the sound lighter than it had been in years. "Kids got big dreams," he said, his eyes tracing Noah's joyful sprint. "Like someone else I used to know." Maya's smile softened, understanding his unspoken reference to Ethan. She'd taken on managing the center, her nursing skills now paired with a knack for organizing chaos, and Elliot marveled at how she'd transformed the space into a beacon for the community. Inside, the center buzzed with activity, kids painting murals, parents in a job training session, a volunteer reading to toddlers. Elliot followed Maya to a quiet corner where a small plaque read, "In memory of Clara, who stitched love into every moment." "Noah's idea," Maya said, touching the plaque. "He said Grandma would have loved this place." Elliot's throat tightened, Clara's memory a bridge that had brought him here. "She would have," he agreed, his voice low. "And Ethan, he'd have been out there sketching with the kids." Maya nodded, her eyes warm. "You're giving them what he dreamed of, Elliot. A place where kids feel safe." They stepped into Maya's office, a cramped room filled with donated books and Noah's drawings pinned to a corkboard. One stood out, a house with 3 windows, each with a colored heart, red, blue, purple. "Noah made that for us," Maya said, catching Elliot's gaze. "Said it's our house, even if we don't live together." Elliot's chest swelled, the drawing echoing Noah's words from a year ago. A house in the heart. He pulled a folded letter from his pocket, its edges worn from countless readings. "Found this in an old box," he said, handing it to Maya. "Ethan wrote it before he left. Said he wanted to build a place where people felt loved." Maya read silently, her eyes misting. "He sounds like Noah," she said, handing it back. "Always dreaming big." Elliot nodded, the letter a lifeline to his brother's hopes. He'd spent months searching for Ethan, through shelters, records, even private investigators. But the trail was cold. Yet standing here, surrounded by Clara's legacy and Noah's laughter, he felt Ethan's spirit in every corner of the center. "I couldn't find him," Elliot admitted, his voice rough. "But this feels like what he'd have wanted." Noah burst in, clutching a new drawing, a rocket soaring past a smiling sun. "Mr. Elliot, this is for your wall," he declared, thrusting it forward. Elliot took it, his heart catching at the boy's earnest grin. "It's going up right next to your last one," he promised, picturing his penthouse wall, now a gallery of Noah's art. Maya ruffled Noah's curls. "Time for lunch, astronaut," she said, guiding him toward the door. She paused, looking back at Elliot. "Join us? It's just sandwiches." But Noah insists. They sat at a picnic table outside, Noah chattering about planets between bites. Elliot watched, the scene so different from his solitary dinners a year ago. "You ever think about family, Mr. Elliot?" Noah asked suddenly, his mouth full of peanut butter. Elliot froze, the question cutting deep. He glanced at Maya, who raised an eyebrow, waiting. "I didn't," he said honestly, his voice soft. "Not until you showed up under that awning. Now? I think family's what you make it." Noah grinned, oblivious to the weight of his words. "You're like our space uncle," he said, giggling. Maya laughed, but her eyes held gratitude. "You've done more than you know," she said quietly. "This center, Noah's school fees, giving us a chance. It's family in a way." Elliot nodded, the words settling into him like a long-lost melody. As they cleared the table, Noah tugged his sleeve. "Can we visit your house again? I want to draw more." Elliot smiled, the idea of his penthouse filled with Noah's chaos now a comfort. "Anytime, kid," he said. Later, alone in his car, Elliot unfolded Noah's new drawing, the rocket's colors vivid against the fading daylight. His penthouse wasn't silent anymore, not with Noah's art, Maya's quilt, or the echoes of their laughter. Ethan's letter rested beside the drawing, its words a reminder. Build a place where people feel loved. Elliot hadn't found his brother, but he'd found something else. A purpose, a home in the heart. As he drove toward the city's glowing skyline, he knew he'd return to Hope's Crossing tomorrow, not just for Noah and Maya, but for the man he was becoming, one stitch at a time.